The first time I saw Scott Mercer, my stomach turned. I couldn't explain it then, and I'm not sure I can explain it now. There was nothing obviously wrong with him. He was handsome, polite, successful, a financial consultant with a firm handshake and a smile that made my daughter light up like I hadn't seen since her father passed. But something in his eyes bothered me, something cold beneath the warmth, something calculating behind the charm.
Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching.
"You're being paranoid, Mom," Rachel would say whenever I tried to voice my concerns. "You just don't want me to be happy with anyone who isn't Dad." Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just a grieving widow who couldn't stand to see her only daughter give her heart to another man. Maybe I was projecting my own fears onto an innocent person. I told myself that for years. I told myself I was being unfair, being difficult, being the stereotypical overbearing mother who couldn't let go. But I should have trusted my instincts. I should have fought harder, pushed back more, done something, anything, to keep my daughter away from that man. Because now my daughter is dead. And I'm watching my granddaughter slip away too. Rachel married Scott after a whirlwind courtship that left me dizzy and concerned. They met at a charity gala, dated for 6 months, and were engaged before I had a chance to catch my breath. The wedding was beautiful, a garden ceremony that cost more than my house was worth, and I stood there with a smile frozen on my face, watching my baby girl pledge her life to a man I didn't trust. "Be happy," I told her as I hugged her goodbye. "That's all I want. Just be happy." "I am, Mom. I really am." She wasn't, though. Not for long. The changes were subtle at first. Rachel stopped calling as often. She missed Sunday dinners more frequently. When we did talk, there was a new tension in her voice, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. "Scott thinks we should focus on our own family," she explained when I asked why she hadn't visited in 3 months. "He says I'm too dependent on you." "Dependent? Rachel, you're my daughter. Family isn't dependency." "Mom, please, don't start." I didn't start. I didn't push, didn't argue, didn't fight. I told myself I was respecting her choices, giving her space to build her own life. What I was really doing was giving Scott space to isolate her. By the time Lily was born, Rachel was a shadow of herself. She had quit her job. Scott makes enough for both of us, and stopped seeing most of her friends. She was nervous, apologetic, always checking her phone for messages from her husband. "Is everything okay?" I asked her once when she came to visit while Scott was away on business. "You seem different." "I'm fine, Mom. Just tired. Babies are exhausting." "Rachel," I took her hands and looked into her eyes. "If something is wrong, you can tell me. Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." For a moment, just a moment, I saw something flicker in her expression. Fear, desperation, a silent plea for help. Then it was gone, replaced by that careful, guarded smile. "Everything is fine," she said. "I promise." 3 years later, she was dead. The official cause was a car accident. Rachel lost control on a mountain road, went through a guardrail, plummeted 200 feet into a ravine. The car caught fire. By the time the emergency crews reached her, there was nothing left to save. Scott was devastated, or at least that's what he wanted everyone to believe. He cried at the funeral, delivered a beautiful eulogy, held little Lily in his arms, and promised to take care of her always. But I saw something else behind his tears, something that looked almost like relief, and I saw the life insurance payout he collected a month later. $3 million. I tried to tell the police about my suspicions. I told them about Scott's controlling behavior, about Rachel's isolation, about the fear I had seen in my daughter's eyes. They listened politely, nodded sympathetically, and did absolutely nothing. "There's no evidence of foul play, Mrs. Brennan," the detective told me. "Sometimes accidents are just accidents. I know it's hard to accept, but my daughter didn't just drive off a cliff. She was an excellent driver. She knew that road. People make mistakes, especially when they're stressed or distracted. Rachel wasn't stressed. She was afraid. There's a difference, but I had no proof, no evidence, just the instincts of a grieving mother that no one wanted to believe. Scott was declared the sole survivor. He got the money, the house, and full custody of Lily. I was given occasional visitation rights, every other weekend and alternating holidays, but only because I threatened to sue if he tried to cut me out completely. "You're lucky I'm letting you see her at all," Scott told me after our first custody mediation. His voice was pleasant, his smile was warm, but his eyes were ice. "If you cause me any problems, if you try to turn Lily against me, if you so much as hint to anyone that I'm anything other than a loving father, I'll make sure you never see her again." Is that a threat? It's a promise, Dorothy, from one family member to another. I should have recorded that conversation. I should have documented everything, built a case, found a way to expose him for what he was. Instead, I just counted the days between visits, treasured every moment I had with my granddaughter, and prayed that I was wrong about Scott, that Rachel's death really had been an accident, that Lily was safe with her father. I wasn't wrong. Lily started getting sick about 6 months after Rachel died. Nothing dramatic at first, just stomach aches, fatigue, occasional vomiting. Scott took her to doctors who ran tests and found nothing definitive. Stress, they said. Children process grief physically. It's perfectly normal. It wasn't normal. I knew it wasn't normal. But every time I raised concerns, Scott had an explanation ready. "She's adjusting to life without her mother. The doctors say she's fine." "You're projecting your own anxiety onto her, Dorothy. It's not healthy." He was so convincing, so reasonable, so patient with the difficult, paranoid grandmother who couldn't stop seeing threats that didn't exist. But I watched Lily get worse. Every time she came back from a weekend with her father, she was a little paler, a little weaker, a little more fragile. And every time she stayed with me, she started to improve, only to decline again after her next visit. "Grammy, my tummy hurts," she would say when I picked her up from Scott's house. "I know, sweetheart. Let's get you home and give you some medicine." "Daddy's medicine doesn't work. Maybe yours will be better." Daddy's medicine. Those words echoed in my head for weeks. What medicine was Scott giving her? For what condition? No doctor I knew had prescribed anything. I tried asking Lily about it, gently, carefully. "What kind of medicine does Daddy give you, honey?" "The special juice. It tastes yucky, but Daddy says I have to drink it to get better." "Special juice? What does it look like?" "It's in my purple bottle, the one with the princess on it." I found the bottle in Lily's backpack once. It was empty, washed clean, with nothing to indicate what had been inside. I kept it anyway, telling myself I was being paranoid, telling myself it was probably just some over-the-counter vitamins or supplements. But the sick feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. 2 years passed like this. 2 years of watching my granddaughter wither and wondering if I was losing my mind. 2 years of careful documentation, dates, symptoms, photographs, that I kept in a folder I was afraid to show anyone. 2 years of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped last weekend. Scott had taken Lily on a 3-day trip to visit his mother in Arizona. When he brought her back Sunday evening, she was barely conscious. "She got carsick," Scott said, carrying her limp body into my house. "Started throwing up about an hour ago. I'm sure she'll be fine after some rest." "Carsick? Scott, she's white as a sheet. We need to take her to the hospital." "She's fine, Dorothy. Don't overreact." But she wasn't fine. She started vomiting again before Scott even left. And this time there was blood. Dark, clotted blood that splattered against the bathroom tiles like a horror movie. "Lily! Oh my God, Lily!" I held her hair back, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. "Scott, call an ambulance." But when I looked up, Scott was gone. His car was already pulling out of the driveway, the taillights disappearing into the night. He left. He saw his daughter vomiting blood, and he left. I drove Lily to the emergency room myself, breaking every speed limit, running every red light, praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. "Please," I whispered, "please don't take her too, please." The next few hours were a blur of doctors and nurses, IV drips and blood tests, machines that beeped and monitors that flashed numbers I didn't understand. I sat by Lily's bed and held her hand and watched her small chest rise and fall, terrified that each breath might be her last. It was almost dawn when Dr. Harrison came to speak with me. James Harrison had been our family doctor for 30 years. He had delivered Rachel, treated her childhood illnesses, watched her grow into a woman and a mother. He was the closest thing I had to an ally in this nightmare. Dorothy. His voice was grave. We need to talk. Is she going to be okay? She's stable for now, but I need to show you something. He led me to a quiet corner of the hallway, away from the nurse's station, away from prying eyes and ears. These are Lily's test results from tonight. He held up a chart, pointing to numbers that meant nothing to me. And these are results from her previous visits, the ones I've been keeping in her file. What am I looking at? A pattern. His voice dropped to a whisper. Dorothy, I've been concerned about Lily for months. The symptoms she's been presenting, the nausea, the fatigue, the gastrointestinal distress, they're consistent with chronic poisoning. The word hit me like a physical blow. Poisoning? I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. I ran some additional tests tonight without informing her father. What I found, he shook his head. Dorothy, there are traces of toxic compounds in her system, the kind found in certain pesticides and rodenticides. Rat poison? My voice came out as a croak. Someone is giving my granddaughter rat poison? That's what the evidence suggests. Small doses administered over a long period of time. Enough to make her sick, but not enough to kill her quickly. He paused. At least, not until recently. The concentration in tonight's samples was significantly higher than previous tests. If you hadn't brought her in when you did, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Scott? I breathed. It's Scott. He's been poisoning her. Harrison nodded slowly. I don't have proof of who is responsible, but I can tell you this. Whatever is happening to that child, it's not natural, and it's not accidental. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Keep her away from him, Dorothy. Whatever it takes. Keep her away from him. I stood there in that hospital corridor, my world crumbling around me. And I made a decision. I was going to find proof. I was going to expose Scott Mercer for the monster he was. And I was going to protect my granddaughter, no matter what it cost me. No one was going to hurt my Lily ever again. The next 48 hours were the longest of my life. Lily was kept in the hospital for observation, officially diagnosed with acute gastroenteritis of unknown origin. Dr. Harrison and I had agreed to keep our suspicions quiet for now. If Scott got wind that we were onto him, he might disappear, or worse, try to hurt Lily before we could stop him. But keeping quiet meant watching him walk into the hospital room like a concerned father, bringing flowers and teddy bears, sitting by Lily's bed and stroking her hair while she slept. Daddy's here, princess, he murmured. Daddy's going to make everything better. It took every ounce of self-control I possessed not to claw his eyes out. She looks better today, Scott said, turning to me with that practiced smile. The doctors say she should be able to come home soon. She'll be coming home with me. His smile flickered. Excuse me? The doctors want her to stay with me for a few weeks, for observation, to make sure she doesn't relapse. I forced myself to meet his eyes. You don't mind, do you? After all, you must be exhausted from the drive to Arizona and back. You could use some time to rest. The calculation in Scott's eyes was almost visible. He was weighing his options, trying to determine if I suspected anything, wondering how hard to push. Of course, he said finally. Whatever's best for Lily. I'll call you tomorrow to check in. You do that? He left with one last kiss on Lily's forehead, and I waited until his car was out of the parking lot before I allowed myself to breathe. Harrison found me in the hallway an hour later. I made some calls, he said quietly. A friend of mine at the crime lab agreed to run additional tests on Lily's samples. Off the record for now. We should have results by tomorrow. And if the results confirm what we think, then we take everything to the police. But Dorothy, he hesitated. You need to understand. This kind of investigation takes time. Scott has money, connections, a spotless reputation. He'll hire the best lawyers, create reasonable doubt, maybe even get the charges dismissed. We need more than medical evidence. We need a smoking gun. What kind of smoking gun? Proof that Scott had access to the poison. Proof that he administered it. Something that ties him directly to what happened to Lily and what happened to Rachel. Rachel, my daughter. murdered by the same man who was now trying to kill her child. What if I could get that proof? I asked. What do you mean? Scott's house, his car, his computer. There must be something there. Something that shows what he's been doing. Harrison frowned. Dorothy, breaking into someone's property is illegal. Any evidence you obtained that way would be inadmissible in court. I'm not talking about court. I'm talking about saving my granddaughter's life. I grabbed his arm. James, if we wait for the legal system to work, Lily could be dead. You said yourself that the doses are getting higher. He's escalating. He's going to kill her, just like he killed Rachel. We don't know for certain that Rachel... I know. I've known since the day she died. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't care. I saw it in his eyes at the funeral. Relief. Like a weight had been lifted. Like a problem had been solved. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. I'm not going to stand by and watch him solve another problem. Not Lily. Not my baby girl's baby girl. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was resigned. I have a patient, a former police detective. He works as a private investigator now. If anyone can help you find what you're looking for, it's him. He pulled out his phone and typed something. His name is Marcus Cole. I'll text you his number. Thank you, James, for everything. Don't thank me yet. We still have a long way to go. I called Marcus Cole that afternoon. He agreed to meet me at a coffee shop near the hospital, somewhere public, somewhere safe. When I arrived, he was already there. A weathered black man in his 60s with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too much. Mrs. Brennan. He stood and shook my hand. Harrison told me a little about your situation. Why don't you start from the beginning? So I did. I told him everything. Rachel's marriage, her isolation, her death. The life insurance payout, the custody battle, the visitation restrictions, Lily's illness, the pattern of symptoms, Dr. Harrison's diagnosis. Marcus listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a small pad. When I finished, he sat back and studied me. You understand what you're asking me to do? Find evidence, something that proves Scott is poisoning Lily. Evidence that was obtained illegally can't be used in court. Even if we find exactly what you're looking for, a good lawyer will get it thrown out. I don't care about court. I care about keeping my granddaughter alive long enough for the legal system to catch up. And what happens if we find nothing? What happens if Scott is somehow innocent? I met his eyes steadily. He's not innocent. I've known it for 2 years. I just couldn't prove it. Now I have a doctor who agrees with me. I have test results showing poison in my granddaughter's blood. And I have a man who left his own child vomiting blood so he wouldn't have to answer uncomfortable questions. I leaned forward. Help me find the proof. Please. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll need to know Scott's schedule. When he works, when he's home, when the house is empty. I'll need access to any documents you have. The custody agreement, the insurance paperwork, anything that might be relevant. And I'll need you to stay calm, stay patient, and let me work. How long will it take? A few days, maybe a week. Depends on what I find and how careful Scott has been. A week? I thought of Lily in her hospital bed, pale and fragile. What if he tries something before then? That's why we need Dr. Harrison to keep Lily in the hospital as long as possible. Medical observation, additional tests, whatever excuse he can come up with. The longer she's there, the safer she is. I didn't like it. A week felt like an eternity when my granddaughter's life was at stake. But Marcus was right. Rushing in blindly could make things worse. Okay, I said. What do you need from me? Over the next 3 days, I became a spy in my own life. I gathered every document I could find. Custody agreements, insurance papers, bank statements, medical records. I created a timeline of Lily's illnesses, cross-referencing them with her visits to Scott's house. I photographed the purple bottle I had found in her backpack months ago, the one that had held the special juice. Marcus worked his own angle. He tracked Scott's movements, learned his schedule, identified the windows when his house would be empty. He researched Scott's background, looking for anything that might indicate a history of violence or deception. What he found was disturbing. Scott Mercer has been married before, Marcus told me during one of our meetings. His first wife died in a house fire 8 years ago. He collected on a life insurance policy worth $500,000. A fire? The official ruling was accidental, faulty wiring, but there were questions at the time. The fire started while Scott was conveniently away on business, and his wife's body was found near the front door, as if she had been trying to escape. She was trapped? That's one interpretation. Another is that she was already dead or incapacitated when the fire started, and her body was placed near the door to make it look like she tried to flee. I felt sick. He's done this before. At least once. Maybe more. I'm still digging into his past. But here's what's interesting. Marcus leaned forward. Scott's financial situation before Rachel's death wasn't as rosy as he led everyone to believe. His consulting firm was struggling. He had debts. The $3 million payout from Rachel's life insurance pulled him out of a very deep hole. And now? Now he's doing it again. His firm had a bad year. He's over-leveraged on his mortgage. And Lily has a trust fund set up by Rachel's father, worth about $2 million. Guess who becomes the trustee if Lily dies before she turns 18? Scott. It was all starting to make a terrible kind of sense. Scott wasn't just a murderer. He was a serial killer who used marriage and family as a hunting ground. He married women with money, isolated them from their support systems, and then killed them for the insurance. Rachel had been his latest victim. And now he was working on Lily. We need to move faster, I said. If he's getting desperate for money, he'll make a mistake. That's actually good for us. Desperate people get sloppy. Marcus checked his watch. Scott has a business dinner tonight. He'll be out until at least 10. I'm going to take a closer look at his house while he's gone. I want to come with you. Absolutely not. If something goes wrong, James, my daughter is dead and my granddaughter is dying. What exactly do I have to lose? I grabbed his arm. I need to be there. I need to see for myself. Please. Marcus studied me for a long moment, then sighed. Stay in the car. Don't touch anything. Don't make a sound. If I tell you to leave, you leave immediately. No questions asked. Understood? Understood. That night, at 8:30, we parked across the street from Scott's house and waited for the last lights to go off. At 9 o'clock, Marcus handed me a pair of gloves. If you have to touch anything, wear these. Don't leave fingerprints anywhere. I nodded, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. At 9:15, we crossed the street in the darkness. At 9:30, I found myself standing in the garage of the man who had murdered my daughter, staring at his car, knowing that somewhere inside was the proof I needed. Marcus went into the house while I stayed in the garage. That was our agreement. He would search the inside while I waited by the car, ready to signal if anyone approached. But I couldn't just stand there. I couldn't just wait while the evidence was feet away from me. I opened the car door and slipped inside. The interior was immaculate. Leather seats, no trash, nothing out of place. I checked the console between the seats, the pockets in the doors, the space beneath the seats. Nothing. Then I opened the glove compartment. My hands started trembling before my mind even processed what I was seeing. Bottles. Small glass bottles with handwritten labels. Solution A, Solution B, doses marked in milligrams. Behind them, a leather journal. And behind that, photographs. I pulled out the journal first. The handwriting was Scott's. I recognized it from birthday cards he had signed. The entries were clinical, methodical. Dates, dosages, symptoms observed. A record of poisoning, documented like a science experiment. March through 5 mg solution A. Subject reports stomach pain, no vomiting. March 17th, 7 mg solution A. Subject vomited twice, weakness observed. April sued, 10 mg solution A. Subject required medical attention. Dose reduced. The entries went back 2 years. 2 years of slowly poisoning my granddaughter, adjusting the doses, learning how much he could give her without killing her too quickly. And then I saw Rachel's name. There was a separate section in the journal, older, the pages yellowed. Rachel's name was at the top, followed by the same kind of entries, dates, doses, symptoms. The final entry was dated 2 days before her accident. June 15th, final dose administered. Subject severely disoriented. Prepared vehicle accordingly. Tomorrow, completion. He had drugged her before she drove. He had made sure she would lose control of the car. My daughter's death wasn't an accident. It was an execution, planned and documented by the man she had trusted with her life. I pulled out the photographs with shaking hands. They were pictures of Rachel, not normal pictures. These were taken without her knowledge, showing her unconscious, slumped in various positions, on a couch, in a car, in bed. The dates were written on the backs, corresponding to entries in the journal. He had photographed his work, like trophies. I must have made some sound, a gasp, a sob, something, because suddenly Marcus was there, his hand on my shoulder. Dorothy, we need to go. Look at this. I thrust the journal toward him. He killed her. He killed my Rachel. It's all here. Every dose, every symptom, everything. Marcus took the journal, flipped through a few pages, and his face went hard. Put it back. What? No, we need to put it back exactly where you found it. We can't take anything, Dorothy. Not yet. But this is proof. Proof we obtained illegally. If we take this now, his lawyers will have it thrown out, and Scott will know we're onto him. He'll destroy everything else, maybe even disappear. Marcus guided the journal back to the glove compartment. We document what's here, we photograph everything, and then we find a legal way to get the police into this car. How? Leave that to me. But right now, we need to go. His dinner might be ending early. I wanted to argue. I wanted to grab everything in that glove compartment and run straight to the police station. But Marcus was right. Doing this wrong could mean Scott walked free. So I photographed everything. Every bottle, every page of the journal, every photograph of my murdered daughter. I documented the location, the arrangement, the details that would prove this evidence hadn't been planted, and then I put it all back. Closed the glove compartment and walked out of that garage with a heart full of rage and a phone full of proof. Scott Mercer had killed my daughter. He was trying to kill my granddaughter. And now I had everything I needed to stop him. I just had to figure out how to use it. The drive back from Scott's house was silent. Marcus concentrated on the road while I stared at my phone, scrolling through the photographs I had taken. Each image felt like a wound. Rachel unconscious, Rachel drugged, Rachel's death planned and documented like a business transaction. What do we do now? I asked finally. Now we build a case that will hold up in court. The evidence in that car is devastating, but we need to give the police a legal reason to search it. How? Harrison's test results are the key. If the lab confirms the presence of specific toxins in Lily's system, and those toxins match what's in those bottles, that's probable cause. The police can get a warrant. And if Scott destroys the evidence before then, that's a risk we have to take. But based on what I saw tonight, Scott thinks he's untouchable. He's been keeping those trophies for years. The journal, the photographs. He's not going to get rid of them unless he has a reason to believe someone is onto him. He suspects me, maybe. But suspecting and knowing are two different things. As long as you act normal, keep Lily in the hospital. Don't give him any reason to panic. We should have enough time. And how long will that be? A few days. A week at most. Harrison is rushing the lab work. Once we have those results, we move. A few days. A week. It felt like a lifetime when every moment brought Lily closer to danger. But I had waited 2 years already. I could wait a little longer. The next morning, I went to the hospital to sit with Lily. She was awake, watching cartoons on the room's small television. Her color was better, her eyes brighter. Whatever poison was in her system was slowly working its way out. "Grammy!" She smiled when she saw me, reaching out her arms for a hug. "I feel so much better today. The doctor says I might get to eat real food soon." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." I sat on the edge of her bed, holding her small hand in mine. "You just keep getting better, okay? Grammy is going to make sure nothing bad happens to you ever again." "Okay, Grammy." She settled back against her pillows, her eyes already drifting back to the cartoon. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Grammy, why does Daddy's special juice make me sick?" I froze. "What do you mean, honey?" "The juice in my purple bottle. Daddy says it makes me strong, but it always makes my tummy hurt. And then I throw up. And then I feel really bad." She looked at me with innocent confusion. "Is it supposed to do that?" I forced myself to stay calm. "No, sweetheart. Juice shouldn't make you sick. Can you tell me more about it? What does it taste like?" "It's yucky. Kind of bitter." Daddy puts sugar in it, but I can still taste the bad part. She wrinkled her nose. I told him I didn't want to drink it anymore, but he said I had to. He said if I didn't drink it, something bad would happen. Something bad? He said I would go away, like Mommy went away. Lily's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to go away, Grammy. I want to stay with you. I gathered her into my arms, holding her tight, fighting back my own tears. You're not going anywhere, baby. I promise. Grammy won't let anything happen to you. But what about when I have to go back to Daddy's house? He'll make me drink the juice again. You're not going back to Daddy's house. Not ever. The words were out before I could stop them. Lily pulled back and looked at me with wide eyes. Really? But Daddy said, it doesn't matter what Daddy said. You're going to stay with Grammy from now on. Okay? She nodded slowly, her face uncertain but trusting. Okay, Grammy. I stayed with her until she fell asleep, then found Dr. Harrison in his office. She knows, I said. Lily knows the juice makes her sick. She told me Scott threatens her if she refuses to drink it. Harrison's face darkened. That's consistent with the timeline. He's been conditioning her to accept the poison, using fear to ensure compliance. She said he told her she would go away like her mother. James, he's threatening a 7-year-old with death. That's psychological abuse on top of the physical. It's actually good for our case. It shows premeditation and intent. How can you be so calm about this? Because I have to be. He met my eyes steadily. Dorothy, I've been treating that little girl since she was born. I delivered her. I gave her her first vaccines. I watched her take her first steps. Do you think I'm not furious? Do you think I don't want to march over to Scott's house and strangle him with my bare hands? Then why? Because fury doesn't help Lily. Fury makes us sloppy. It makes us do things that can get the case thrown out of court. He stood up and walked to the window. I got the preliminary lab results this morning. They confirm the presence of thallium in Lily's system. Thallium? A heavy metal. It's found in certain industrial pesticides, the kind that aren't available for consumer purchase. Whoever is poisoning Lily has access to restricted chemicals. Scott's first wife died in a fire. He was never investigated properly. If he had access to those kinds of chemicals, then there may be a pattern. Thallium was actually used as a murder weapon in several historical cases because it's tasteless, odorless, and the symptoms mimic natural illness. Dr. Harrison turned back to face me. I've contacted a forensic toxicologist I know. She's agreed to testify as an expert witness if this goes to trial. When? I corrected him. When it goes to trial. When? He agreed. Marcus called me this morning. He says you found quite a lot at Scott's house, a journal documenting everything, photographs of Rachel while she was drugged, bottles of whatever poison he's been using. My voice cracked. He planned it all, James. He wrote it down like a recipe. And now we have medical evidence that matches. Thallium in Lily's system, thallium presumably in those bottles. Once the police have a warrant, they'll be able to connect all the pieces. How long until they can get a warrant? Marcus is meeting with the detective he trusts this afternoon. If everything goes well, they could move as early as tomorrow. Tomorrow. Just one more day. But I should have known that Scott wasn't going to give us one more day. The call came that evening, while I was eating dinner in the hospital cafeteria. Mrs. Brennan, this is the security desk. There's a man here who says he's Lily's father. He's demanding to see her. My stomach dropped. Don't let him in. Call the police if you have to, but do not let him anywhere near her room. Ma'am, he's getting quite agitated. He says he has legal custody. I don't care what he says. That child is under medical observation, and no one sees her without Dr. Harrison's authorization. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am. I'll inform him. I abandoned my dinner and ran for the elevator. By the time I reached Lily's floor, I could hear Scott's voice echoing down the corridor. This is ridiculous. She's my daughter. You can't keep me from seeing my own daughter. 2 security guards were blocking his path, their faces set in professional neutrality. Harrison stood behind them, his arms crossed. Mercer, Dr. Harrison said calmly, Lily is in critical condition. Any visitors require my approval, and I don't believe additional stress would be beneficial to her recovery. Stress? I'm her father. The only stress here is being caused by you people keeping me from her. Scott's eyes found me as I approached. And you. This is your doing, isn't it? You've turned everyone against me. No one is against you, Scott. We're just trying to protect Lily. Protect her from what? From her own father? He stepped toward me, and the security guards moved to intercept. I know what you're doing, Dorothy. I know you've been filling her head with lies, trying to take her away from me, but it's not going to work. She's my daughter, mine, and no paranoid old woman is going to change that. Mercer, one of the security guards put a hand on his arm. You need to leave. Now. Don't touch me. Scott shook him off. I have rights. I have lawyers. You can't keep me from my child. We can if you continue to cause a disturbance. Please leave voluntarily or we'll have to call the police. For a moment, I thought Scott was going to escalate further. His face was red, his fists clenched, his whole body trembling with rage. Then suddenly, he went calm. It was more frightening than the anger. The transformation was instant, complete, like a mask dropping into place. 1 second, he was a furious man on the verge of violence. The next, he was smooth, composed, almost smiling. Of course, he said pleasantly. I apologize for the disruption. I'm just concerned about my daughter. I'm sure you understand. We understand, Dr. Harrison said carefully. We'll contact you when Lily is ready for visitors. I appreciate that. Scott straightened his jacket, adjusted his tie. Then he looked directly at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood freeze. See you soon, Dorothy, he said softly. Very soon. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the corridor until they faded into silence. That man is dangerous, one of the security guards muttered. More than you know, I replied. I spent that night in the chair beside Lily's bed, watching her sleep, jumping at every sound in the corridor. I didn't trust Scott not to come back. I didn't trust him not to find some way past the security, some way into this room, some way to finish what he had started. At 3 a.m, Marcus called. We have a problem, he said. Scott withdrew a large sum of cash from his bank account this afternoon, $50,000. What does that mean? It means he's preparing to run, or preparing to pay someone to solve his problems for him. Pay someone? Like a hitman? Possibly. Or a lawyer who can get him emergency custody, or a forged passport. The point is, he's making moves. He knows something is happening. The scene at the hospital. He knows we're keeping Lily from him on purpose. Probably, which means we're running out of time. Marcus paused. The detective I met with is ready to move. He's taking our information to a judge first thing tomorrow morning. If we're lucky, we'll have a warrant by noon. And if we're not lucky, then we improvise. But Dorothy, whatever happens, don't leave that hospital. Don't let Lily out of your sight. If Scott is going to make a move, it'll be soon. I understand. Do you have anyone who can stay with you? A friend? A family member? Someone who can watch Lily while you sleep? I'll manage. Dorothy, I said I'll manage. I've been managing for 2 years. I can manage for 1 more day. I hung up and looked at my granddaughter, peaceful in her medicated sleep. 1 more day, just 1 more day, and this nightmare would be over. I had no idea how wrong I was. The warrant came through at 11:47 a.m. I was in Lily's room when Marcus called with the news. Harrison was there too, checking her vitals, pretending this was just another routine visit. They're moving on Scott's house right now, Marcus said. Detective Reyes has a team ready. They'll search the car, the house, everything. What about Scott? Where is he? Unknown. He wasn't at his house when they arrived. His car is gone too. My blood went cold. He's running. Maybe. Or maybe he doesn't know yet. Either way, we've got an APB out on his vehicle. If he's still in the city, they'll find him. And if he's not, then we have a bigger problem. But let's not borrow trouble. For now, we wait. Waiting was agony. I sat with Lily, watching her play with the tablet a nurse had lent her, listening to her giggle at silly videos, trying to act like everything was normal. But every time someone walked past the door, every time a phone rang somewhere in the hospital, every time a shadow moved in the corner of my eye, I flinched. Harrison stayed with us, making excuses to linger, checking and rechecking charts that didn't need checking. "Any news?" he asked quietly during one of his pretend examinations. "They're searching his house. They haven't found him yet. He'll surface. Men like Scott always think they're smarter than they are." I hoped he was right. The call came at 2:15 p.m. "Dorothy." Marcus's voice was tight with something I hadn't heard before. Excitement, maybe, or triumph. "They found everything. The bottles, the journal, the photographs. It's all there, exactly where you saw it. Plus more." More. Documents on his computer. Research on poisons, on insurance fraud, on how to stage accidents. Deleted files that their tech people recovered. And Dorothy, they found evidence related to his first wife too. Emails where he talked about the fire before it happened. I sank into the chair beside Lily's bed, my legs suddenly unable to support me. "It's over," I breathed. "It's really over." "Not quite. They still need to find Scott. But once they do, he's going away for life. Multiple murder charges, attempted murder, insurance fraud. The DA is already talking about seeking the death penalty. Where is he? That's the problem. His car was found abandoned at a shopping center 20 minutes ago. He must have switched vehicles. We think he's still in the area, but we don't know where. Why would he stay? If he knows the police are after him. Because of Lily." Marcus's voice was grim. "Dorothy, we've been analyzing his journal. The entries about Lily, they're different from the ones about Rachel and his first wife. He's not just poisoning her for the money. He's enjoying it." "Enjoying it?" The journal describes his experiments in detail. The different doses, the reactions, the way she responded to his treatments. He writes about her like she's a lab rat. Marcus paused. "Men like Scott don't give up their subjects easily. If he knows he's caught, if he knows he's going to prison, he might want one last satisfaction. He's coming here. We don't know that for certain, but I've contacted Detective Reyes. They're sending officers to the hospital as a precaution." "How long until they arrive?" 20 minutes, maybe less." "And if Scott gets here first?" Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. I hung up and turned to Dr. Harrison. "We need to move Lily. Now." "Move her? Where?" "Anywhere. A different room, a different floor. Somewhere Scott doesn't know about." Harrison nodded, already reaching for his phone. "I'll arrange it. There's a secure ward on the 5th floor, usually reserved for high-profile patients. I can have her transferred in 10 minutes. Do it." The next few minutes were controlled chaos. Nurses appeared, disconnecting monitors, gathering equipment, preparing Lily for transport. She watched everything with wide, confused eyes. "Grammy, what's happening? Why are we moving?" "It's just a precaution, sweetheart. The doctors want you in a special room where they can take better care of you." "Is Daddy coming?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. "No, honey. Daddy isn't coming. But I heard the nurses say police were coming. Is Daddy in trouble?" I knelt beside her bed, taking her small hands in mine. "Lily, do you remember what I told you? About how you're going to stay with Grammy from now on?" She nodded. "Well, that's because Grammy found out that Daddy was doing something very bad. Something that was making you sick. The police are going to make sure Daddy can't hurt you anymore." Her lower lip trembled. "Daddy made me sick?" "Yes, baby. The special juice. It was making you sick. Daddy knew that, and he kept giving it to you anyway." "Why?" The question every victim asks, and the one that never has a satisfactory answer. "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes people do bad things, and we never understand why. But what matters is that you're safe now. Grammy won't let anyone hurt you ever again." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded bravely. "Okay, Grammy. I believe you." We were halfway to the elevator when the lights went out. The emergency generators kicked in almost immediately, bathing the corridor in dim red light. But the sudden darkness had caused confusion. Nurses were calling out. Patients were pressing their call buttons. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm was sounding. "What's happening?" I gripped Lily's gurney, my heart pounding. "Power outage," Dr. Harrison said, but his voice was uncertain. Could be a system failure or someone cut the power intentionally. "Move," I said. "We need to move now." We pushed the gurney toward the elevator, but the doors wouldn't open. The elevators were locked down during power outages. "Stairs," Dr. Harrison said. "This way." We were 10 feet from the stairwell door when I saw him. Scott Mercer stepped out of a supply closet, blocking our path. He was wearing hospital scrubs, stolen, presumably, and there was something in his hand. Something that gleamed in the emergency lighting. A syringe. "Hello, Dorothy." His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "I thought I might find you here." "Scott." I stepped in front of Lily's gurney, putting myself between her and her father. "Don't do this." "Don't do what? Visit my sick daughter?" He took a step closer. "I'm her father, Dorothy. I have every right to be here. The police are on their way. They found everything. The journal, the photographs, the poison. It's over, Scott. Whatever you're planning, it won't help you. Won't it?" He smiled, and the expression sent chills down my spine. "I disagree. See, I've done some research on hospital security systems. Once you know the right circuits to cut, it's remarkably easy to create confusion. And in that confusion, terrible accidents can happen." He held up the syringe. The liquid inside was clear, almost innocent-looking. Potassium chloride stops the heart almost instantly, completely undetectable if the body is cremated quickly enough. His smile widened. "I've learned a lot over the years, Dorothy. Rachel taught me quite a bit. Lily taught me more. I really should thank you for keeping her alive so long. She's been a wonderful subject." "You're insane. I'm practical. There's a difference." He took another step. "Now, why don't you step aside and let me say goodbye to my daughter?" "Over my dead body." "That can be arranged." He lunged. I don't know where the strength came from. 2 days of no sleep, 67 years of age, a body that wasn't built for fighting, none of it mattered. When Scott moved toward Lily, something primal took over. I met him head-on. We collided in the dim red corridor, his syringe hand caught in my grip, my other hand clawing at his face. He was stronger than me, younger than me, but I had something he didn't. The desperate fury of a grandmother protecting her child. "Run!" I screamed at Dr. Harrison. "Take Lily and run!" I heard the gurney wheels squeak against the floor, heard Lily crying out, heard Dr. Harrison calling for security. But I couldn't look. I couldn't take my eyes off Scott, couldn't release my grip on his wrist. "Let go, you stupid old woman!" He was trying to twist free, trying to angle the syringe toward me. "Let go or I'll—" I bit him. It was instinct, nothing more. His forearm was in front of my face, and I sank my teeth into it with everything I had. He howled in pain, and for just a moment, his grip on the syringe loosened. I slammed his hand against the wall. Once, twice, 3 times, the syringe clattered to the floor. Scott's fist caught me in the side of the head. Stars exploded across my vision, and I staggered backward, losing my grip on him. He bent to retrieve the syringe, and I knew I only had seconds before. The stairwell door burst open. 2 police officers stormed through, weapons drawn, shouting commands that blended into meaningless noise. Scott froze, the syringe in his hand, caught in the beam of their flashlights. "Drop it! Drop it now!" For a moment, I thought he might comply. His face went through several expressions: rage, calculation, resignation. Then he smiled that cold, empty smile. "You can't save them all, Dorothy," he said calmly. "Remember that." He raised the syringe toward his own neck. The officers tackled him before he could plunge it in. The next few minutes were chaos. More officers arriving, Scott being subdued and cuffed, paramedics checking me for injuries. I heard snippets of conversation. Suspect in custody. Murder weapon secured. Victim protected. But I wasn't focused on any of that. I was looking down the corridor where Dr. Harrison was standing with his arms around a small figure in a hospital gown. Lily. Safe. Alive. I pushed past the officers, past the paramedics, past everyone who was trying to help me, and I gathered my granddaughter into my arms. "Grammy!" She was crying, trembling, clutching at me like I was the only solid thing in the world. "Grammy, I was so scared." "I know, baby. I know. But it's over now. It's all over. Is Daddy going to jail?" "Yes, sweetheart. Daddy is going to jail for a very long time." good." Her voice was small but fierce. "He was mean, Grammy. He hurt me and he lied, and he said mean things about Mommy." "I know, baby, but he can't hurt anyone anymore." Grammy made sure of that. I held her tight, feeling her heartbeat against my chest, feeling the warmth of her small body, feeling the reality of this moment. My granddaughter alive, my daughter's killer in custody, the nightmare finally ending. "I love you, Grammy," Lily whispered. "I love you too, sweetheart, more than anything in the world." And for the first time in 2 years, I let myself believe that everything was going to be okay. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the front row of the courtroom, watching as the evidence I had helped gather was presented to the jury. The journal, the photographs, the bottles of poison, the research on Scott's computer, Harrison's medical records documenting Lily's slow poisoning, and the testimony. Witness after witness, expert after expert, all painting a picture of a man who had murdered 2 women, attempted to murder a child, and felt no remorse for any of it. Scott sat at the defense table in his expensive suit, his expression carefully neutral, occasionally leaning over to whisper to his lawyers. He looked like what he had always pretended to be: a successful businessman, a concerned father, a victim of circumstance. The mask only slipped once. It was during the medical examiner's testimony about Rachel. The prosecution had obtained permission to exhume her body, and the toxicology results had confirmed what I had always known. My daughter had been poisoned with thallium in the days before her death, enough to cause confusion, disorientation, loss of motor control. "In your professional opinion," the prosecutor asked, "could the victim have been capable of safely operating a vehicle at the time of the accident?" "Absolutely not," the medical examiner replied. "The levels of thallium in her system would have caused severe neurological impairment. She would have had difficulty with basic coordination, reaction time, visual processing. Driving under those conditions would have been essentially impossible." "So the crash was not an accident?" "In my opinion, no. The victim was functionally incapacitated before she ever got behind the wheel. Someone put her in that car knowing she would crash." I was watching Scott when the examiner said those words. I saw his mask slip, just for a moment, just a flicker, but in that moment, I saw triumph, pride, the satisfaction of someone whose clever plan was finally being acknowledged. He was proud of what he had done to my daughter. After the testimony, during a recess, I found myself face to face with him in the courthouse corridor. His lawyers had stepped away, and for one brief moment, we were alone. "Dorothy." He smiled that charming smile that had fooled everyone for so long. "Enjoying the show?" "This isn't a show. This is justice." "Is it?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You know what I find fascinating? You suspected me from the very beginning. You never trusted me, never accepted me, never gave me a chance. And you were right." His smile widened. "Doesn't that bother you? Knowing that if someone had just listened to you, Rachel might still be alive?" I refused to let him see how deeply those words cut. "What bothers me is that I didn't trust my instincts enough. I didn't fight hard enough. I let people convince me I was being paranoid." I met his eyes steadily. "But that's over now. I found the evidence. I protected Lily. And I'm going to watch you spend the rest of your life in a cage, maybe. But you'll never get back what you lost. Rachel is gone. 2 years of Lily's childhood, gone. All those months of sickness and fear, gone." He shook his head in mock sympathy. "Even if I rot in prison forever, you still lost. We both know it. You're wrong. Am I?" "Yes." I stepped closer, close enough to see the emptiness behind his performance. "Because you don't understand what love means. You don't understand that Rachel lives on in Lily, in my memories, in the family you tried to destroy. You thought you could erase her, but you can't. She's everywhere. And every time Lily smiles, every time she laughs, every time she grows into the woman her mother would have been proud of, that's Rachel winning. That's love winning. That's everything you tried to destroy coming back stronger than before." Scott's smile faltered. "You killed my daughter," I continued. You tried to kill my granddaughter. You took years from our lives that we'll never get back. But you didn't break us. You didn't destroy us. And that's what really bothers you, isn't it? That despite everything you did, we survived. We're still standing, and you're the one who's going to disappear. Mrs. Brennan, one of his lawyers was approaching. You shouldn't be speaking with my client without— I'm done. I turned away from Scott, from his lawyers, from the monster I had helped expose. I've said everything I needed to say. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder for Rachel. First-degree murder for his first wife. The case had been reopened based on the evidence found in Scott's journal. Attempted murder for Lily. Insurance fraud. Evidence tampering. A litany of charges that would keep him in prison for the rest of his natural life. When the verdict was read, Scott showed no reaction. He sat perfectly still, perfectly composed, as if the words didn't apply to him, but I saw something change in his eyes, something dimming, some light going out. He had believed, until that very moment, that he would get away with it, that his charm, his lawyers, his money would save him once again, that he was too smart, too careful, too perfect to be caught. Now he knew the truth, and the truth was destroying him. The judge sentenced him to life without parole, with no possibility of early release. As the bailiffs led him away, he looked back at me one last time. I thought he might say something, threaten me, curse me, blame me for his downfall, but he just stared, his face blank, his eyes empty. Then the doors closed behind him, and he was gone. That night, I sat in Lily's room and watched her sleep. She had been staying with me since the arrest, and the change in her was remarkable. No more stomach aches, no more vomiting, no more pallid skin and tired eyes. She was eating well, playing energetically, laughing in a way I hadn't heard in years. The poison was out of her system. The monster was in prison, and slowly, day by day, my granddaughter was coming back to life. Grammy? Her voice was sleepy, her eyes half open. Is it over? It's over, sweetheart. The bad man is going away forever. Good. She closed her eyes, then opened them again. Grammy? I had a dream about Mommy. My heart caught. What was she doing? She was in a garden. A really pretty garden with flowers everywhere. And she was smiling at me. Lily yawned. She said to tell you she loves you, and she said thank you. Thank you? For protecting me. She said you're the best Grammy in the whole world, and she's happy I have you to take care of me. I couldn't speak. The tears were streaming down my face, but I didn't care. I just stroked Lily's hair and let her words wash over me. I love you, Grammy, Lily murmured, already drifting back to sleep. I love you too, baby, more than you'll ever know. She was asleep in seconds, peaceful and safe in a way she hadn't been in years. And I sat there in the darkness, crying for my daughter, grateful for my granddaughter, finally able to believe that the nightmare was truly over. 5 years have passed since Scott Mercer went to prison. I'm 72 now, older than I ever imagined I would be, watching my granddaughter grow into a young woman I couldn't be prouder of. Lily is 12 years old, healthy and strong, with her mother's eyes and her grandmother's stubbornness. We live in a new house, not the one where I raised Rachel, which held too many memories, but a smaller place with a big garden and room for a dog. Lily named him Justice, which she thought was hilarious. I thought it was perfect. The years since the trial have been about healing, therapy for both of us, separately and together, long conversations about Rachel, about what happened, about the monster who tried to destroy our family. There were hard days, days when Lily had nightmares, days when I couldn't stop crying, days when the weight of everything that had happened felt too heavy to bear. But there were good days too, days when Lily brought home a perfect report card, days when she laughed so hard she snorted milk out of her nose, days when we baked cookies together and talked about nothing and everything, building the relationship we almost lost. The medical effects of the poisoning lingered for a while. Lily needed regular checkups, supplements, careful monitoring, but Dr. Harrison stayed involved, watching over her with the same dedication he had shown during the crisis. Now, 5 years later, she has a clean bill of health. The poison is gone from her body. The scars remain, but they're healing. I still have the journal. Not the original. That's in evidence storage somewhere, locked away with all the other proof of Scott's crimes. But I kept copies of the photographs I took that night in his garage. Sometimes, when I need to remember why I fought so hard, I look at them. I look at the clinical handwriting documenting my daughter's murder. I look at the photographs of Rachel, unconscious and helpless. I remind myself what evil looks like when it wears a human face. And then I put them away and go watch Lily practice soccer, or help her with homework, or sit on the porch and drink lemonade while she tells me about her friends and her crushes and her dreams for the future. That's what survival looks like. Not forgetting, but moving forward. Not erasing the past, but building something better on top of it. Scott died in prison 18 months ago. I found out from Marcus, who had kept tabs on the case over the years. Heart attack, apparently. The irony wasn't lost on me. A man who had killed with poison, felled by his own failing heart. I thought I would feel something when I heard the news. Satisfaction, maybe. Relief. Closure. But all I felt was tired. Tired of thinking about him. Tired of giving him space in my mind. Tired of carrying the weight of his existence. So I let it go. I didn't tell Lily. She doesn't need to know, not yet. Maybe someday, when she's older. When she asks questions about what happened to her father. But for now, he's just gone. A bad memory fading into the past, losing its power to hurt us. Last week, Lily asked me to tell her about Rachel. We were sitting in the garden watching Justice chase butterflies, and she turned to me with those serious eyes, her mother's eyes, and said, "Grammy, what was Mommy really like? Not the stories, the real her." So I told her. I told her about Rachel as a baby, colicky and demanding, refusing to sleep unless I was holding her. About Rachel as a toddler, stubborn and curious, getting into everything. About Rachel as a teenager, moody and dramatic, slamming doors and declaring that I just didn't understand. I told her about Rachel's laugh, which could fill a room, about her terrible taste in movies and her excellent taste in books, about the way she could never stay angry for long, the way she apologized with cookies and hugs. I told her about the day Rachel brought Scott home, and how I tried to be happy for her even though my instincts were screaming, about the gradual changes, the isolation, the fear I saw in my daughter's eyes, about the guilt I still carry for not fighting harder, not pushing back more, not finding a way to save her. "It's not your fault, Grammy," Lily said when I was done. "You tried. And you saved me." I almost didn't. If that doctor hadn't suspected, if Marcus hadn't helped, if Scott had been a little more careful, but he wasn't. And you stopped him. She took my hand. "Mommy would be proud of you. I'm proud of you." I pulled her into a hug, holding her tight, feeling her strong, healthy heartbeat against my chest. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. Every single day." That evening, after Lily was in bed, I sat on the porch with Justice and thought about everything that had happened. The years of suspicion and doubt, the horror of discovering the truth, the desperate fight to save my granddaughter, the trial, the verdict, the aftermath. All of it leading to this quiet moment, an old woman and her dog, watching the sunset, grateful for another day. I am 72 years old. I have buried my husband, my daughter, and the man who killed her. I have faced evil, fought it, and won. I have raised a second child, built a second life, found reasons to keep going when everything seemed hopeless, and I have learned that love is the most powerful force in the world. Not the love in fairy tales, not the love that conquers all with magic and ease. The real love, the messy, complicated, heartbreaking love that makes you fight for people even when you're terrified. The love that keeps you standing when everything else falls apart. That's the love that saved Lily. That's the love that sustains me now. That's the love I try to pass on to my granddaughter every single day, so that when she's grown and facing her own battles, she'll know that she's not alone, that she comes from a line of fighters, that she has the strength to face whatever life throws at her. Rachel is gone. Nothing will ever change that, but her daughter is alive. Her daughter is thriving. Her daughter will carry her memory forward into a future that Scott Mercer tried to steal from us. And that's what liberation means. Not the absence of pain, not the erasure of grief, Just the freedom to keep living, keep loving, keep building something good in the ruins of something terrible. I am Dorothy Brennan. I am a widow, a mother, a grandmother, a survivor. I have lost more than most people could imagine, and I have found more than I ever expected. And every morning, when I wake up and see my granddaughter's face, I know that everything I went through was worth it. This is my story. This is Rachel's legacy. This is what love looks like when it refuses to give up. We are still here. We are still standing, and we are free.